Hi, I'm John McKean. I'm a lecturer here in the Department of Modern Languages at the University of Reading, and this short talk is to give you a bit of an idea about what it looks like to study French with us here. So I'm going to go through the various aspects of the course. We'll look at the various levels: first year, second year, the year abroad, and then the final year, and the individual modules and choices you can take at each of those levels. Before I do that though, there's a general point to be made, and that's really that we divide our study and the studies that you will do into two parts. The first is the language, French language. And what we do here is we really try and perfect your mastery of French. So we get you to deal with the difficulties that often maybe have been skimmed over at A-level. There may not be time and so on, but we really get to grips with aspects of French grammar and expression that you need to speak fluently. In order to do this, we've got a teaching team which is made up on the one hand of francophones, so native French speakers, so you can learn directly from them, and on the other hand of anglophones, so people like myself who do not speak French at home but have themselves learnt it. And that can be often quite a good combination because I've been in your shoes. When we've done all that, by the time you get to graduation, we are really aiming for you to be fully accurate and fluent in French. So you look at all of those aspects in specific language classes. You will also do the other side of the degree, which is dedicated to French and Francophone culture and society. So this will help you to gain an understanding of France and its world, so the world as France sees it. It will help you to think critically, so to be able to approach a problem and really unpack it abstractly, and that's often known as soft skills. That's the second part of our degree, but it's not completely separate from the language part. In fact, we find that they complement each other really well. And the other thing that we do as you go through this system and you navigate through the various modules and choices that you have, is you'll have a personal tutor who'll be the same academic for all your time in Reading. And they will meet with you regularly to make sure that you are still making progress and to answer any little queries you might have. So if I come on now to the first year, as I said, you will be doing a French language module this year, in which you will be looking at the nitty-gritty really of grammar and syntax, things like that. You will be working on your comprehension of French and on your expression. So both written and orally, you will be developing your skills there. We give you conversation classes with native speakers, and overall for the French language, you'll get 3 to 4 contact hours per week. That's if you're doing the advanced French. If you're doing beginner's French, you will be doing a little more in terms of contact hours per week. On the cultural and social side, the modules available here are social or historical course named The Making of Modern France. There's a course which is more looking at literature, theatre, film, those sorts of things, which is called The Introduction to French Culture. There are, however, also, even at first year, a couple of other options available to you: European cinema or Introduction to Linguistics. What you'll then do as you go into the second year is that you develop those interests I've just spoken about. So if we start this time with the culture and society modules, we're offering one on France and World War I. There's also ones on the French novel or on littérature de jeunesse, so those are the literary sides, looking at how stories are told and created in French. If you've enjoyed the cinema at the first year, or if you'd like to look at it further, then you can do French literature on screen. And if you're interested in sort of the French education system and how the French train students and youngsters to think in a certain way, then you can do a module named How to Think in French. All the while, these modules will be developing your competencies and your level in French, and they're strongly assisted in that by the language module that we do with you in the second year. So here we continue all of the aspects that I mentioned in first year, so grammar, syntax, morphology, comprehension, expression, and so on. We also add in a new element here, which is translation. often taught by experienced translators themselves. This will be both from French to English and from English to French. So really you're applying the sort of linguistic knowledge and accuracy that you have, but you're learning to come up with the sort of final product and actually use it in the activity of translating, which obviously goes on all the time out there in the world. We then come to the year abroad. This is when really you will turn from a young student into a fully fledged adult. What are your options? Well, you have essentially three main types of placement that you can do in your third year. You can study abroad with one of our university partners, and I'll tell you in a minute which ones they are. You can do an assistantship where you'll be placed in a French school and you will be assisting with the English classes that they give there, and this will be a paid position. Or you can do a work placement where you will contact a company and negotiate to do some sort of stage or position with them, and we can help you think about which areas you might want to work in and how you might want to go about approaching these companies. So those are the three main types of placement that you might do on your year abroad. All the while we will be asking you to do certain work for us back in Reading. So various reports, which are written reports or video reports, various pieces of online kind of grammar and language work. And we like you to do that because, yes, your oral, your spoken language gets usually incredibly good over the year abroad, but you need to keep up as well with the accuracy of your written French. So we are supporting you and remaining in a kind of dialogue with you over that year, so that when you come back to be a finalist in Reading, you will not have let things slip at all in that area. Let me go on then to say a little bit about our partner universities. You have a choice, but we usually end up getting most people into their first choice university. As you can see, they range quite widely in terms of location. You can go from the big cities of Paris, Montpellier, Lyon and so on, to slightly smaller places like Poitiers, Rennes, Grenoble, and so on. We also have one link with a university in the Indian Ocean in the French-speaking island of La Réunion, and we have a link with the University of Geneva as well. In terms of the work placements I mentioned, well, here is a list of just a few that students have done in previous years. They're in a range of areas of industries or disciplines, so from accountancy to advertising to technology and so on and so on. The skills you bring as someone who's able to use two languages and translate and move between those two languages are actually really useful for a really wide range of organisations. So that's the third year. You'll then come back for your final year in Reading, and you'll find the familiar format that you have now been used to from your first and especially your second year of study. The language module is really a case of getting you to polish off your French, and we just need to sort of make the final push towards getting some accuracy and getting you a really impressive linguist by this stage. So we do the language classes, we do the translation classes, both ways. To support that, again, we have the cultural and society modules. And again, here there's a range. So from the more historical ones, such as La Belle Époque, looking at late 19th century France, to French Caribbean, to things like chanson, where you're looking at a very exciting and sort of varied tradition in 20th century and 21st century France, to Jean Cocteau, who you can see here with his many hands, who's someone who was a filmmaker, a poet, a painter. You can also do language for managers. So again, as you've been starting to develop yourself over second year, further in your year abroad, in your placement, and then in final year, you can again choose an option that's best suited to you, what you want to do with your degree. What do you do by the time you get to the end of all of that? There's no one answer. Just some of our recent French graduates are in the areas that, if you can see these slides, you may be able to see on the right-hand side, from translation, as you might expect, and interpreting, to things like journalism, local government, management consultancy, and so on. So, you do have a wide range of things you can do with the various hard skills that I was talking about and the soft skills that I was talking about at the beginning. A few examples of what our recent graduates have done. This is Luke Ellis, and he's taken the soft skills, being able to communicate, to research, to sort of look at problems and come up with solutions. He's taken that to become a journalist at the BBC. And then finally, Jolie here, who's doing what sounds like a very difficult job, but I'm sure she's very good at it, working on European patents. So obviously, if you're going to be translating a patent, the translation needs to be good. So, just to recap what I've been saying, if we're lucky enough to welcome you here to study French with us here at Reading, that you'll be going through a course that I've tried to talk about with the language modules on the one hand and the cultural and society modules which back them up on the other hand. You'll do a year abroad, the single experience that all of our graduates say was a sort of transformative time for them. You'll gain both the hard skills of a language and the soft skills of being able to analyse, communicate and rationally think about problems that pose themselves, and therefore because you have both these types of skills, you will have high employability by the time you graduate from us. The thing I want to emphasise as my last point really though is that partly from the personal tutor system and partly from the range of options that we give you, that we really do try to treat you as individuals during your time here. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks very much.